Hey guys, this is Icarus. I am here to show off a custom map that I ran into. I actually ran into this on Reddit a while ago. And this is called the Curse of River's End. You can find it right in the custom games lobby in Dota Reborn. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because this is probably one of the most well-polished maps that I have seen come out of the custom game set. This is a Dota mod as far as the game goes. It plays exactly like the original Dota. It is just a very different map. It's a different setup. The big takeaways to take from the map, I would say, are the fact that first off, the map is symmetrical right down the middle, corner to corner. It is also symmetrical kind of like this, in the sense that both the Radiant and the Dire side have very similar pieces, where the Radiant jungle over here and the Dire jungle look pretty much exactly the same. The same is true for the Dire and the Radiant. Where on the original map, there are minor differences where the Dire top lane is a lot more difficult because you can pull the creeps back as the Radiant offlaner. So the Radiant jungle is known to be a lot easier. The one thing I do kind of want to start with, and I guess would be the single flaw in the map, is the fact that down here on the bottom lane, the Radiant creeps meet the Dire creeps right at the tower, to the point where the tower will actually attack the creeps and wipe the wave. This is probably a result of a recent balance change in the original Dota map, where they made it so the Radiant creeps move a little faster when they spawn, so they meet closer to the Dire tier 1 in the bottom lane. This is something that the creator can probably change pretty easily, but for now, I'd say this is one of the few flaws that I've noticed in this map. And while I'm here in the bottom lane, what I want to start with is one of the biggest differences that I see is there's an ancient camp right over here, and coming in to take this camp, very dangerous, because there's this nice little juke spot over here that's accessible from the stairs on this side, and you can come in kind of like this, and while you're taking the camp, you actually cannot see what's behind you without a ward, so you being forced to drop a ward somewhere like right over there to see the kinds of rotations that would come in on you. And the other advantage of having a ward there is because of the way that the map is set up, if say you're pushing into their tower, your support can come along this direction and gank them from the stairs, because they won't actually see you until you show up right over here. You cannot see because this is a high ground over here. Lots of fun gank spots on this map. I'll be going over them. One of the reasons I'm making this video again is because there's just so many things to see and talk about. A handful of pictures uploaded to Imager were not something that I planned. A handful of pictures uploaded to Imager were not something that I kind of felt were enough to show off what this map is really capable of. The other really cool thing about this map is the jungle camps are very accessible from the tier 1 towers during the laning phase. So the small camp is right over here. There's a high ground right up here, and you can use that to stack the camp and pull it. The camps are fully stackable over here. Sits in a nice little house that's open. I like that. And then over here is the medium camp, and you can clear it out. Again, camps are stackable, so very easy to stack. And by clearing this medium camp, you have this rotation opened up to come over here, so coming back to clear a stack that your support put together can be contested by the enemy, just kind of by them coming over here and driving down into the camp. If you go a little bit deeper into the jungle, you do have an ancient camp over here, other than the single ancient camp that I showed you guys at the beginning. And again, the Dire side has a very similar camp. There is a ward spot right above the camp over here, and I'm going to show you the way that the vision works on the ward spots in a bit when I get to the Dire side. As you come over here, again, there's another rotation direction over here. If you're on this side, you can kind of see in there.
The path is clear.
During the day, nighttime, which is about to start, it starts to be a little bit more difficult if you're farming. If you push forward or back and not actually along there, the vision into the little nook over there starts to become a little bit more difficult. So if you're farming over here during the night, you can't see in there, and if you're over here, you can't see in there at all. Opens up for rotations from your support coming in this direction, as well as rotations from middle, which is actually very close, because middle is right over here and can come this direction without any ward cover. And the rune is right over here, so middle can pick up the rune, and if it's a good rune, he can turn it into a gank on this, I guess what I'm going to call off lane for both sides. It's going to be very dangerous for whoever their laner is. This map is similar to the League map, in which the bottom lane is very dangerous, much like the top lane is considered dangerous because of the way in League, because of the way that the maps are put together. But it isn't like League, where League is a map that is symmetrical all around. This map does have a few differences in that the nature of the map and the positioning of where middle is just so much farther from the top lane than it is from the bottom lane, that bottom lane is easier to gank, but it also means that top lane, while being more difficult to gank, is a lot harder to rotate supports in if you want to do something like that. Now over here we have some more juke spots, and Blink is going to be very powerful on this map just because of the way that it's put together. There's lots of high ground that you can take advantage of, lots of things you can blink over. See, you can blink in there, you can blink over this building, and you're gone. And I told you guys I'd show you the ward spot over on the Dire side. Again, because they're symmetrical, the way that the ward is put together, the ward spot is put together, it'll look exactly the same on the Dire side as it will on the Radiant side. So if I were to blink up here, drop a ward, this ward gives me vision of an Ancient camp, which they might or might not have stacked, so you'll see it, and it'll give you vision over the tier 2 tower. Now this ward is not easily reached as the Radiant. You are talking about coming in through here, all the way over here, toward behind their tier 2 bottom tower, and keep an eye on their Ancient cap. So this is probably going to be more of a late game ward. However, there is a ward spot right over here. Now this ward spot gives you vision of the tier 2 and the tier 1 middle, as well as the secret shop. Now the secret shop is right over here, behind the middle lane, and you actually cannot reach it from down here. So if you're down here, you can't buy it. You actually do have to go around this nice little wall and get up here, or blink up. There's a high ground right over here next to the river, so they can't siege you from the side as they try to get to the tier 2, and there's another high ground right in front of the tower. So you do have a nice little high ground advantage. But the really cool thing about this middle lane is this high ground up here, actually the tower cannot see you, and it cannot see beyond this high ground created by this bridge. So the middle can rotate this direction, make it look like he's going for bottom, but instead do a wraparound and show up over here. It also makes it so that while defending your tier 1, you can defend from this high ground up here. It makes it a lot more difficult, where they have to choose to either engage you up here where there's this choke point, or they can choose to engage you the tower and try to pull you this direction by engaging the tower from over here. So lots of decisions to be made on this map that the more I explore, the more interesting it gets. Ooh, it does look like he added a ward spot right on this. Gord, G. Freeman.
As thou will it.
So dropping a ward there does seem to give you pretty decent vision on either end. You cannot see past these trees, but that's usually where the creep wave is. But it does let you see the rune, it seems, which I did not notice before. Another kind of nice ward spot that I found is over here. Again, lets you see the rune and any rotations coming in the direction of the bottom lane. Now, the side shop, I believe, is... Let me check, he's got a nice little map. There are 2 side shops on here that I have yet to find, actually. Where are they? See, I made this map, I made this game, and I'm starting to make this video before I actually explored the whole thing, and it does seem like the side shops are a bit difficult to find right now. Oh, I see where it is. So there are 2 side shops. One of them is supposed to be over here. Huh.
None shall hinder me.
So
Thou art mine.
okay, so I'm not crazy. The side shops do not exist right now for some reason, so there are no side shops in this game, it seems.
Onward.
Oh. There's a side shop here, but... Oh, you gotta open it. That's what I thought was weird, because I thought the side shop was over here, but you can't actually select the shopkeeper. You have to come over here and click it open, because you can't see it. And the other side shop should be up this direction. Right behind the tier 2 top. So here's the tier 1, here's the tier 2, and... Okay, I see. So, I wasn't going crazy. The first side shop is right over here near the tier 2. A little bit less accessible to the top lanes. But the side shop in the bottom lane is literally right next to the tower almost. So you have the tower over here. And if you blink, if you come right over here, you do have access to the side shop. See, I was looking for an actual shopkeeper. If I hadn't looked at that little mini-map, I would not have seen it. That, I guess, is another flaw in the map. Now, if we're going to come back to middle, I've shown you guys all of this, and if you come this direction, you have more gank spots. There's a nice high ground that you have to risk coming up to this direction. More juke spots over here, and if you come this way, you'll see there's another camp over here. Now, this is a large camp, I believe. Let me check by going to the dire side. Yes, it is a large camp. And there's a ward spot right next to it. And if you drop this ward over here, it does not actually give you vision of the camp itself. Instead, it gives you vision of the low ground just before the high ground of the top lane. And it lets you see any rotations coming in this direction over here on top of you. So it could be a good offensive ward and a good defensive ward during the early game, because if the lane's pushed out like this, without that ward you can't see behind the creep wave. And supports or middle could come in this direction and you can be ganked coming on over here. On the other hand, though, if you look at the way the top lane is put together, so you have the tier 1 tower over here, and a nice short walk away, you have a medium camp right over here. This camp can be stacked, and then later on you can farm it. It's very safe to farm because you either lose your tier 1 tower over here, and then that loses some of the safety, but there's no way to get to it short of blinking up.
Yes.
This direction. If you want to come this direction, though, there is a lot of space between the tier 1 and the tier 2 in the top lane. And if you do lose your tower early, you do have access to the side shop right near your tier 2. But losing the tier 1 tower top is going to lose you access to Roshan, who is right over here. Ow. And he's actually close enough to the lane that you can pull him out into the lane. And I haven't been able to do it successfully yet, but I was able to pull the creeps onto Roshan and have them tank him. I will get a screenshot of it happening. It was the enemy creeps. The lane can be pulled by pulling these creeps into lane over here. And this lane over here can be pulled by pulling these creeps right into lane over here. You will get a double wave if you pull the small camp into lane. The medium camp will not pull, and it does not chain. So this over here, pulling into lane, will get you a double wave. You won't deny the whole thing. You can, however, stack it and then pull. And that'll clear the wave. So both lanes can be pulled. The only lane that can't be pulled, it seems, is middle. Now, the last ward spot is right up here, near the small camp, which is right over here. This ward spot gives you nice vision over any rotations coming through the jungle this direction once you've taken over the tier 1. So, if they are defending their tier 2 right over here, it becomes a lot more difficult because they can't wrap around, they can't jump you from the side, and if you put a ward up there defensively, you can see everything that's kind of coming through. So I really like the way that the ward spots have been put together. As far as defending the base goes, yeah, it'll be easier to see if I take you guys to the Radiant side.
I go.
The tower here, there is actually no high ground. So if I'm standing right over here, I take it back. There is a high ground. It's a very subtle high ground. You can't see it. So there is a high ground defense, but there are ways in and out of the base.
Almost feel bad.
The side. So there's this little path over here. Oops. And there's this little path over here. So as someone trying to assault the base, you are forced to defend the high ground, but I can kind of show up right over here and suddenly be into your base on either end without having to be there. But it also doesn't give me a lot of vision, and there isn't a lot of ward cover. So if I try to rotate this direction, see, during the day you can come up this direction and I'll see what's going on because this tower gives me vision. I have vision from all the buildings, so I can see everything that's going on. If you try to come this way, you get stuck in a choke point, but you can avoid the tower entirely and try to fight me here. But even during the daytime, I should probably buy a heart to make this Anti-Mage a little bit tankier so I don't have to go back to base. Even during the daytime, the amount of vision I have, especially coming in over here, very minimal. You know, I can kind of see up there, can kind of see what's going on, but the moment I come over here, open myself up to initiation, but it's another angle to engage from if I want to try something like that. I do believe these grave spots can be used as wards. The gravestones do not block vision, so dropping a ward there works. I can drop a ward up there as well. Vision on the bridge is going to be a thing, I think, if you play this map. Because dropping a ward up here lets you see what's going on, and if I drop a ward up here,
I go.
gives pretty good vision, but lets me see on your tower,
As thou will it.
and it's outside of the vision of the tower's true sight, so it's going to be really difficult for the enemy to see. And as far as the top rune, which is right over here, you can see it from over here. You can drop a ward, which will do the same thing. It'll let you see any rotations heading towards top. And picking it up, because it's really accessible from the bottom lane, but it's also very dangerous because you won't see middle rotating in on you if they
'Tis mine.
figure out that you're going for the top rune. They can sandwich you between middle and whoever they have in the top lane. Overall, I say this map, very well put together, beautifully balanced, lots of new gank angles, lots of new ways to play the game, and lots of new things to do. I especially like, again, having this ancient camp right over here that you can take. Adds a little bit more flavor to the map.
Might want to check your
Balancing it out the way it is, so that it's symmetrical down the middle, means that there is no dire or radiant advantage, so to speak, which can be argued because then you get rid of the whole advantage of being able to use something like, okay, do you want first pick or do you want to pick your side when playing
The other fellas
games?
to wreck your bottom tower.
The Ancient itself is actually very close to the
They're meaning to smash
Fountain.
that bottom tower. of yours.
So fountain farming, I would say, is going to be a little bit more difficult because you're kind of forced to stand right here and attack the Ancient
Might
while
wanna check
choking
your
them
bottom
off.
tower.
The path
I
is clear.
want to see this map polished up a little bit more and maybe put into the rotation of being able to queue for the original classic Dota map or this map of Curse of River's End. So take a minute, check it out on the workshop, explore the map yourself, pick Anti-Mage, turn WTF on, and just look around. Play it with some friends. I'd really like to see the kind of meta that comes out of this map.
Truth compels me.
Thanks for watching. It's been Icarus, and I will see you guys later.